Even with the long break off, nothing has changed for this New Jersey Devils team. Fortunately and unfortunately, we are that much closer to this disastrous season coming to an end. Plus, we preview the Devils trade deadline coming up this week. All that and more on this edition of the Devils State of Mind podcast. I really don't know what any of us expected when we got back from the Olympic break. I think there was maybe a little bit of hope, even being 11 points back of a playoff spot to start last week. I think just the energy and excitement from what Jack Hughes and a lot of the New Jersey Devils players did at the Olympics, I think gave us a little bit of hope that maybe they could win a couple games coming out of the break and get going again and maybe give themselves a chance. All of that hope and everything optimistic went out the window probably within the first 20 minutes of this first game back against Buffalo. Um, and since that point, I mean, again, we're just back to where we all have felt or have been feeling um, even before the Olympic break a few weeks ago. But nonetheless, what's going on, guys? As always, it is your host, your best friend, your confidant, your number one source, Neil Villapiano, and welcome to another edition of the Devil's State of Mind podcast, right here, as always, on the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as Sports Wire Radio, the best place to get everything you need to know about your. I really, really can't wait for this season to end featuring the New Jersey Devils. And as always, Devils fans, hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you're checking out this episode. And thank you guys, as always, for taking time out of your day to check this episode out, whether here on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You always know, guys, that I really, really, really appreciate it. And guys, as always, this episode and all of our episodes are sponsored by our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And guys, with it being the second day of March, March 2nd, you know what that means. March Madness for college basketball is this month. We have the World Baseball Classic kicking off on Friday, another international sports tournament, and so much more. We obviously have the playoff push in the NHL, although not involving the Devils. And of course, the end of the NBA season and their push for the playoffs as well. And you already know that DraftKings is your number one that I'm a big, big, big supporter of DraftKings. And there's so much going on right now to get in on all these huge cash prizes. All you have to do is sign up with our promo code THPN. Again, promo code THPN. You place just $5 on your first bet. And if that bet hits, you get $300 instantly in risk-free bet money. I promise you guys, this is the best offer right now. You don't want to miss out. So again, sign up with DraftKings using our promo code THPN. You bet $5, and if your bet hits, you get $300 instantly in risk-free bet money, courtesy of DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. And as always, Devils fans, make sure to bet responsibly. I would like to hope that you guys are betting responsibly when it comes to not betting on this New Jersey Devils team to win any games. I mean, I know obviously they're coming off of a victory over the weekend against St. Louis Blues. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But overall, we are a little over 20 games to go in this regular season. And really, at the end of the day, nothing has changed. The vibes are still very low for the fan base. And I would probably assume the ceremony honoring Jack Hughes last week in the first game back from the Olympics against Buffalo was probably the last time the Devils fans are going to feel truly amped up and excited for this team, at least for this year. Just considering everything that's going on. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? So again, as we all know at this point, there was a wonderful ceremony for Jack Hughes, mainly Jack Hughes. I mean, they did recognize the other Devils Olympians, but that ceremony was mainly for Jack Hughes. It was great. It was great to honor him that way. And moments before he gave the speech, which, as we know, Jack Hughes is not a big fan of talking, in public out loud, and especially in front of thousands of people like that. He took a moment to acknowledge Tage Thompson as well, who he played with on the U.S. men's national team that won the gold. Gave him a chance to get honored as well by the Devils fans, which was great. I thought that was a great gesture by Jack. Tage Thompson said after the game that he didn't even know that was coming. So for him to do that was honestly really, really awesome. And it's great that he did that. But really, from Jack Hughes' quick speech, and I'm just going to read to you the paragraph that really stands out to me. He said, "I'm so proud and I'm so happy that the men's and women's U.S. hockey teams brought gold medals back to the United States of America. You guys are making me emotional, but I'm so proud to represent the New Jersey Devils organization, and I'm so, so proud to represent the great state of New Jersey. So proud." At least for a moment, for a little moment there, you felt like that Jack Hughes truly loves being a New Jersey Devil. He loves being a part of the organization and being in this state, and that he wants to win here. And I know that people are already talking about, oh, it's only a matter of time before Jack gets sick and tired of playing for this organization and not doing anything, and he'll just leave along with Luke, and they'll go play with Quinn in Minnesota. Again, contractually speaking, Jack will have to wait another couple of years before he can do that. Obviously, he can request a trade, but I would just like to hope that him saying that, and even the comments he made after the game about how much he loves being a part of this organization, makes you hope that he wants to be here for his entire career and wants to win here. That's what I took away from it. And I think about what Ryan Novozinski wrote for NJ.com last week about this Olympics should push this Devils organization, with still the GM of the Devils, Tom Fitzgerald and co., to make the necessary changes to building this team around a player like him and around the core that we have, and compete like we should for the playoffs and ultimately competing for a Stanley Cup. I still want to see Tom Fitzgerald fired. Some days I feel like it's going to happen, and other days I see it not happening. I mean, there's no evidence that has proven that Tom Fitzgerald's job is on the line. But again, things can change between now and the end of the season. As far as I understand, he's going to be running the show when it comes to the trade deadline. I'm nervous about that. I don't even think he's earned the right to do that. But I guess we'll see. But bottom line is, when I think about that speech, again, for a few moments, I could sit there and really feel like Jack truly loves being a part of this franchise. And Devils fans love that as well. And all we can do is continue to support Jack and this team. And hopefully in the very, very, very near future, meaning like next season, this team finally figures it out and truly lives up to the potential that they have and what we've seen dating back to 22-23. Should also mention on a side note that Jack has had a crazy week when it comes to being in the national stage. Not just this speech, not just obviously seeing the president and all of the controversy that has come out with that. He was also on the Pat McAfee show earlier this past week. He was on Saturday Night Live alongside Quinn Hughes, Megyn Keller, and Hillary Knight. The what was it? I guess the script that Hillary Knight read, saying, "Oh, we had to include the men," I thought was hilarious, by the way. So Jack Hughes has really become an A-list celebrity over the past week and change. It's been just over a week since he scored that golden goal. But again, as I mentioned to you guys, and we already know, all that good feeling went out the window very quickly. Devils played a piss poor game at home against Buffalo, lost that one 2-1, didn't even score their only goal of the game until about a minute and change left to go. Had another pathetic performance the very next night in Pittsburgh, losing that one 4-1. And then even though they won 3-1 in St. Louis against the Blues team that's even worse than where the Devils are, didn't really feel much of anything after that. I was just like, okay, the Devils are not going to lose their last 20 plus games in a row. It's just not going to happen. They're going to win a couple games here and there. It's just, it's just how it goes. But it just sucks to be in a position that we're in where we're kind of hoping for losses. And that's mainly because we want to obviously see the GM get fired, most likely the coach to get fired, and, really kind of bring in new leadership, which I still feel that this Devils team desperately needs. So I don't really know. I think about also what Novozinski said earlier today, before in the middle of practice, where he was talking about how does the Devils ownership, Joshua Harris and David Blitzer, give Tom Fitzgerald one more year to figure this out before they obviously make the decision to make a change. Don Sweeney, the GM of the Boston Bruins, he got that opportunity last year after he traded away Brad Marchand. The ownership basically told him, you have a year to figure this out. And to give him credit, he has figured it out, and the Bruins are in a much better position. Now, keep in mind, Sweeney also has several Stanley Cup appearances under his belt prior to that. Tom Fitzgerald has one second-round appearance in 6 years as the GM of this team. Unless the ownership really just doesn't feel comfortable firing people or just isn't paying attention as much or doesn't care, I don't see how Tom Fitzgerald has earned the right to still have his job. I mean, I could go on and on, but you guys already know how I feel about all this. I'm not saying anything new. So, again, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. On Friday is the trade deadline, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Again, we'll just do a standings check just because I feel like it. So again, we go all the way down to the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Devils currently sitting at 29-2 with 60 points. They are 7 points ahead of the Rangers for the fewest amount of points in the Eastern Conference. The Devils also actually have, I didn't even realize this till I looked at it now, they have the worst goal differential in the Eastern Conference at -31. And then when I go down to the Western Conference, they are currently tied for the third worst goal differential with the Chicago Blackhawks, also at -31. Only the St. Louis Blues, who the Devils just beat, and the Vancouver Canucks, who we're not even shocked that they're that bad, at -66, are worse than the Devils. Also, from a finishing standpoint, in terms of goals per game, the Devils are the worst team in the NHL when it comes to finishing. And I know that Sheldon Keefe, again, criticized, without really criticizing, his team for not finishing after the loss to Buffalo, when he said that Tage Thompson finishes his chances. That's pretty much a knock on the Devils players. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. It's just, we're just hearing the same thing over and over again. Devils are 11 points out of a playoff spot by the aforementioned Boston Bruins I was just talking about, and they're now 15 points behind the New York Islanders for third place in the Metro. So again, this season is cooked. This season has been cooked for the longest time now. According to Money Puck as of today, the Devils have a 0.6% chance of making the playoffs. So I feel like with maybe another 2 or 3 losses, it'll probably get them to being officially mathematically eliminated. Maybe if they lose their first 2 games of this week, maybe that will officially eliminate them. 22 games left to go, guys. 22 games to go. And this week, and also just the beginning of March, the Devils will be at home for a considerable amount of time. From now until the 18th of March, the Devils will be at home. So if you want to get at least one more chance to see this team play in person, which is going to be hard for a lot of fans to feel motivated to go, this is a good chance, as the Devils will play, 7 consecutive home games starting tomorrow. We'll show the schedule here. So again, this week, the Devils will begin with 2 back-to-backs. First, tomorrow at home against the Florida Panthers, and then the very next night, Wednesday, against Toronto. Then over the weekend, for the first time all year, the Devils will take on the Rangers in this year's version of the Hudson River rivalry, which I like to just call it the mid-off. Um, it's just going to be bad. It's going to be tank bowl for both of those teams. That'll be a 3 p.m. game at the Rock. And then the Devils will play the second half of back-to-back at home against the Detroit Red Wings. And then as you can see from that schedule, then the Devils will play the Flames, Kings, and Bruins before they finally play their first road game of the month, which will be local, right across the Hudson River, in the second game against the Rangers, this time in New York. So I don't know what to expect other than I expect the Devils to lose more than they win down the stretch. And again, it's not even that they're tanking. It's just simply that this team cannot finish and other teams can. And that's pretty much it. Even in the game against St. Louis, which keep in mind, the only way the Blues scored a goal was because Jacob Markstrom stupidly tried to shoot the puck into an empty net and instead turned it over right in front with an empty net, and the Blues were able to score. I mean, the Devils almost choked away that game anyway, which I know for some people in terms of tanking, they would have preferred to see us give up that second goal, go to overtime, shoot out, and lose the game anyway. So, again, I'd love to sit here and have more positive, fun things to talk about, but I don't. We're just kind of, I'm like basically everybody else. We're just kind of, this season is dragging, and we're just slowly trying to get to the end here and try to begin to retool this team because they desperately need it. Looking ahead, though, from a future standpoint, the Devils did make a signing to one of their prospects earlier this morning as they signed Mateusz Mitlowski to a 2-year entry-level contract. He is a forward, or he's a center that the Devils actually drafted in the 6th round, 171st overall in 2024 out of Czechia. A lot of the projections that I saw from him is that he is a defensive kind of forward, is very responsible in his own end, kind of good at just getting the puck out of those dirty areas and really just being a solid penalty killer as well. He's gotten a lot of praise from, guys in Utica and just the organization as a whole. So the Devils obviously need some more center depth in their system, and they're able to get Mitlowski signed to a 2-year entry-level deal, which will start, by the way, next year, 26-27. He's currently on a 1-year, one-way AHL contract. This is his first season ever in North America. He's 6'1", 190 pounds, and he has recorded 13 points, 3 goals, 10 assists, and 35 games played with the Utica Comets. Some international news, or just things that Mitlowski has done. He represented Czechia at the IIHF 2022 Under-18 World Junior Championship and 2024 Under-20 World Junior Championship, and he helped Czechia win a bronze medal in the 2024 event as he led all skaters, or he was tied in assists in that tournament with 10. So he actually very recently on the international stage had a very, very good tournament. So overall, this is a guy that maybe in a year or two might get a chance to play more in the NHL. Maybe he's a depth piece that the Devils haven't. And look, you can never, have too many young guys, even if they're not projected to be star players. Not every prospect you draft and develop is going to be a star. And I know obviously with Tom Fitzgerald's track record, he's done a pretty poor job of drafting and developing. Seems like that Mitlowski's given this organization a vote of confidence to sign him to a 2-year entry-level deal that will start again next year, and he's earned it. Again, coming from, an AHL contract, is basically a prove-it contract, to getting the opportunity now to be on this, to be in this organization moving forward, is a job well done by Mitlowski. So we'll see him probably next year, maybe at development camp. Who knows? Maybe a training camp as well. Maybe he'll play a little bit. I guess, we got a long ways to go before we see that, but we'll continue to monitor him while he's down in Utica with the Comets as they continue their own struggles. But yeah, Devils obviously trying to sign some guys for the future, and this includes Mateusz Mitlowski, who signs a 2-year entry-level contract that again starts next year in the 26-27 season. All right. So the last Devils thing I want to discuss here. Let's quickly preview the trade deadline. I think likely I'll do an episode probably the same day as the deadline, but after 3 p.m. when it's all over, because obviously Devils aren't playing that night, and we'll be able to kind of review what the Devils did and did not do. Couple notes. Saw this morning. Elliot Friedman reporting that the Devils have several defensemen, that are made available that is not including Luke Hughes, Shimo Nemec, or Brett Pesce. So obviously that list, those are the guys that basically the Devils are not interested at all in moving. The other guys that are available are obviously Dougie Hamilton, Brendan Dillon, Jonathan Kovacevic, and some others. Honestly, I'm totally fine with that because I think the Devils need to reshuffle their defensive back end anyway because it has been really bad. Jonathan Kovacevic, they just signed him to a 4-year extension, which now looks really bad. He just hasn't done that well at all since he got back from injury. And maybe that's just because he's battling through recovering from injury. But nonetheless, if there's somebody out there that wants him, I think the Devils, really, there aren't many guys on this roster that I think have earned the right to still be here right now. I think a lot of these guys should be made available. That's the way I look at it. Chris Johnson also reporting that Nick Bjugstad is a likely candidate to get moved again, which, if that is the case, why the hell did we get him in the first place? Why? Why did we trade for him? What was the point? If we're just going to ultimately move him, probably for less than what we got him for, what was the point of getting him? Again, Bjugstad was another move that I was like, I would have been more okay with it 3 months ago when this team needed that help and they were still very much competing for a playoff spot. I'm also okay with keeping him as a fourth-line center for next year, but if they move him, I mean, that's just more money that comes off the books that the Devils can play with next year, in trades and free agency to retool this team. It's still looking like the Dougie Hamilton is likely to get moved. I think they want to find a resolution by the end of the week, so we'll see where things go with that. Some other names that have come up as potential guys that could get moved. Dawson Mercer is one of them. Cody Glass is another. With Cody Glass, he still has another year left on his deal after this year. Do I think the Devils could find someone similar to him? Sure. Maybe for less money? Also sure. And if you could get some value for Cody Glass, I don't really see the harm in doing that. Dawson Mercer, I want to believe more that Dawson Mercer can turn things around, but it's just hard for me when he's that inconsistent. The one positive you can really give about him is that he's available every game. And as we know, the best ability is availability. And he is still yet to miss a game in his career. And he does have some two-way abilities, but he just goes long stretches without doing much, as do a lot of guys on this team. But he's still fairly young. I think still has a pretty solid amount of value. And maybe the Devils could find somebody that they like that they can try to go acquire and use Dawson Mercer as a bargaining chip. Maybe in a bigger deal to get a top 6 winger to play alongside Jack or just in that top 6. But we'll see. Bottom line is that I think the expectation should be the Devils are going to make 2 to 3 moves. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're very quiet. I don't know. I think it would be very disappointing and really aggravating if the Devils do little to nothing at this deadline. Because they need to sell off these assets. They need to recognize that this season is over. And I think that ownership, fits based on what I'm understanding and hearing. I think he has accepted that. But again, he could still do something completely crazy, like try to pursue Steven Stamkos, although Stamkos doesn't want to get moved. The best thing the Devils can do is sell off the assets that they have and open up a bunch of spots to retool this team. I keep using the word retool because that's exactly what this team needs. They need to retool so freaking badly. And I know that most of you guys would agree with that. So, we'll keep our eyes and ears on what happens over the next couple of days. Maybe, and by the time this episode comes out, maybe something will happen. I don't know. But again, we'll keep our eyes on it. And if anything really major happens, like maybe Dougie Hamilton or something, we might come on for an emergency episode. But again, if nothing really happens until the trade deadline, I will wait till the deadline is over, and then I will come on and I will recap what the Devils did and did not did at the trade deadline. Again, that'll be at Friday, and the deadline is at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll see how things go with that. All right, so now to wrap up this episode, it's time for another edition of a Siren segment. I'm still going to call it that until I come up with a better name. Maybe I'll just keep it. Who knows? Just introduced the New York Sirens last week. If you didn't, make sure to go check out the clip that I posted about it. Also, just the episode in general. So you guys can learn a lot more about the PWHL and the local team in the area, the New York Sirens, who, again, they play all their home games at the Prudential Center. And they have a better chance, way better chance, of playing playoff hockey this year at the Rock than the Devils do. So the Sirens played just one game last week. I was in attendance for that one as they lost to the Montreal Victoire 4-1. Casey O'Brien, the rookie forward, she scored the lone goal for the Sirens. Kaylee Osborne, who was the third-string netminder for Team Canada at the Olympics. This was her first game in several weeks. She'd never even played a single minute in the Olympics. So maybe you can mark up some of the struggles to rust. Really struggled to stay in the net as it caused several of the goals. Ultimately, didn't really play well, was pulled in the third period when it was still 3-1. And the Sirens now lost several in a row, but they're still very much in fourth place in the standings. As we'll take a look here, they are currently 1 point ahead of the Ottawa Charge and the Toronto Scepters for fourth place in the PWHL. Again, for those of you that don't know, the top 4 teams in the PWHL make the playoffs. And this has so far been the best season that the New York Sirens have had in just year 3. Ultimately, you want to see them make the playoffs. That would be great. And you have a chance to really gain some very, very needed points this week. And let's take a look at their schedule as they have 2 games coming up this week. Both are at home, as we'll take a look here. So on Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, March 5th, the Sirens will be at home at the Rock against the Boston Fleet. Kind of a cool giveaway that night. Kristina Kaltenkova, the former number 1 overall pick this past year, who's been great in her first year in the PWHL. It's a bobblehead giveaway night for her. So if you want to get a really, really cool giveaway and obviously check out the Sirens of the PWHL, Thursday's game would be a really, really good one to go to against arguably the best team right now in the PWHL. And then a battle between 2 teams fighting for that 4th spot in the standings. The Sirens will be at home on Sunday for a noon puck drop against the Ottawa Charge. So, a couple games there. And after that, the Sirens won't be at home very much down the stretch here, but you still have some opportunities here to check them out before the regular season ends. They'll play they'll be on the road against the Minnesota Frost on Sunday, March 15th. Then in Vancouver on Wednesday, March 18th. At Seattle, then Wednesday, March 25th. Then they're in Montreal on Saturday, March 28th, before they're finally back home on Wednesday, April 1st. So the only 2 home games this month of March that you can see the Sirens play will be this week. Again, Thursday, March 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then Sunday, March 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Please, please, please go out and support your local women's hockey team and your local women's sports, especially because they are fast growing and fun. I cannot stress that enough. And if you want to see some good hockey at the Rock, some meaningful hockey at the Rock, going to see the Sirens this week is a perfect way to do that. So I highly, highly recommend that to you. On that note, Devils fans, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Devils State of Mind podcast. As always, guys, thank you so much for checking out these episodes. Really do appreciate it. If you like what you saw and you're here on YouTube, make sure to leave a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Tell all your friends to do the same. And also hit that notification bell so you get notified every time a new episode, a new clip, and all content that I got going on comes up. We are 11 subscribers away from 200. I would love to get to 200 by the end of this season. So make sure you guys subscribe, get your family and friends to do the same as we continue to grow the podcast here on YouTube. And also make sure to check out the podcast on all your audio listening platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, SoundCloud. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, do me a favor and leave a 5-star rating on either. It helps continue to grow the podcast and get it out to more and more Devils fans out there like yourself. Follow the podcast at our social media platforms: Devil State of Mind on Facebook and Instagram, and then Devil State over on Twitter. You can also follow the podcast on my TikTok. It's just my name, Neil.Villapiano. I post clips and other Devils content over there. And also follow the BlueSky account. Again, it's just my name, Neil Villapiano. I will post game day updates, new podcast episodes over there, new clips as well, so much more. So make sure you follow the podcast over on there. And in the description here on YouTube and also on our link tree, make sure to go check out all of the Devil State of Mind merch that we got going on. We got shirts, we got sweatshirts, we got so much stuff. If you want to support the podcast even more out in the open, out in public, make sure to go get some Devil State of Mind merch as well. But again, thank you all so much for checking out this episode of the Devil State of Mind podcast. And we will see you in the next episode as we continue to drag our way through the end of this very frustrating Devils season. But nonetheless, everyone continue to be the awesome people that you are. And as I always say at the end of every episode, win or lose, put those horns up, baby, and let's go, Devils.